May I extend an apology? I know that some of you were caught up in the security system this morning. I do apologize for that. It was just so much excitement, but we have to get security right, and I do apologize for that. Secondly, can I say a really warm welcome to the 84 new member companies who have joined since I became president of the CBI. I'm delighted that our membership is growing. I'm delighted that we're bringing in new members of all shapes and sizes and sectors. So a very warm welcome to you. Ladies and gentlemen, today I think Britain can hold its head really high. Last year, the UK was the fastest growing G7 economy, and this year, growth is on a firm footing. But this recovery didn't just happen. It's been a real team effort between government, between business, and between people all across the UK. And it's included firms of every size and sector, entrepreneurs quitting their day jobs to pursue the idea of a lifetime, medium-sized businesses innovating and striking out into new markets, and FTSE 100 companies investing millions to build winning global businesses. We can all be proud of what this country has achieved over the past few years. Indeed, as I look out of the room, a room full of leaders, I see that looking ahead, strong leadership will be crucial to the UK's long-term success. And as we meet here today on the threshold between recovery and prosperity, we cannot just be satisfied with the status quo. Both at home and abroad, we need to raise our ambition for jobs and for growth. And that won't be easy, but if politics and business work closely together, we will create a better future for all. A future that's built on business responsibility, powered by national productivity, and expanded through global opportunity. So let me start with the first area where I think we all need to show strong leadership, and that is business responsibility. And as a businessman, I know we have a really positive story to tell. Every day, firms out there are creating the jobs which change lives and possibilities for people right across the country. There are over 2 million more people employed now than there were before the recession. And every year, firms are out there paying their taxes. Last year, £175 billion in taxes, enough to fund the totality of the education and NHS putting together. And in communities, firms do so much which in my mind too often is underestimated or unnoticed. Working with organisations like Teach First, or Business in the Community, or the Prince's Trust, or the many other charities that are existing to transform the possibilities for the most disadvantaged. As an example, last year, nearly half of Barclays' workforce took part in community investment programs, volunteering more than 400,000 hours. Their Armed Forces Transition, Employment and Resettlement Programme has helped more than 3,500 service personnel. And this year, Teach First, which I chair, launched a partnership with Barclays to provide an additional 500 STEM teachers to address that critical shortage of skills in science, technology, engineering and maths. And I know of so many other companies here today, Rolls-Royce, HSBC, Unipart, JCB, Bibby Group, and many others are making a huge contribution to local communities and providing real leadership on social action. On the subject of education, let me be very clear. I believe it is a basic human right. Millions of children in the UK are still living in poverty. And the only way to change this is to make sure that every child of every background in every part of the UK gets a world-class education. And that should be possible in the 5th richest country in the world. But that means even more firms building bridges between the classroom and the boardroom, supporting head teachers and leaders in education in a system where the right behaviours and experiences can be just as important as the right grades. And to the principals of those most challenged schools, I salute you for the tremendous work you do to make a difference right across this country. But improving our children's education is one of the surest routes to improving our long-term economic health. As a country, we literally cannot afford for our children to be left behind in the global race for high-skilled jobs. That brings me to my second area where we need to show real leadership, and that's on national productivity. Productivity is the magic ingredient for improving living standards, spreading growth to all people in all parts of the UK. And in recent years, we have seen some progress, and some great progress. Productivity in the automotive sector, for example, is already twice the national average, underlining the importance of our industrial strategy and showing just what is possible when government and business collaborate together on the greatest challenges and opportunities faced by the nation. But there is still much more to do. According to the government's own productivity plan, matching US levels of productivity would give a GDP boost equivalent to around £21,000 per year for every household in the UK. So how do we get there? Well, business, of course, has a real role to play by investing in innovation, in technology, and in people. And in addition, we want to see government protect spending on key productivity drivers like infrastructure, innovation, education, and skills in the forthcoming comprehensive spending review. Innovation, in particular, is the beating heart of productivity. It makes up more than half of labour productivity growth between 2000 and 2008. Yet at the moment, we're falling behind global competition. Today, we rank 7th in the EU for innovation, 34th in the world for government procurement of advanced technology, and last in the G8 for government R&D spending. To become an innovation leader, we'll need to double Innovate UK's funding by the end of this Parliament, with the ambition of tripling it in the longer term. And besides innovation, the right infrastructure will be essential for boosting productivity and global competitiveness. And infrastructure, I know, is a top priority for many of you in this room. At the CBI, we've long been calling for a National Infrastructure Commission. So we were delighted to hear the Chancellor commit to one, and delighted that Lord Andrew Adonis is going to lead that. The Commission is the chance to end the cycle of politicisation and procrastination that has plagued British infrastructure for decades. But while the Commission is welcome, we must not duck the infrastructure decisions which need to be made right now. On airport capacity, we need strong political leadership and decisive action from government now. Britain needs that new runway, so let's get it built. But besides responsibility and productivity, leadership also means seizing global opportunity wherever we can find it. This starts with attracting the best in global talent. I think we should celebrate the fact that many of the world's best and brightest want to come here to study and to put their skills at Britain's service. It's time to remove the unhelpful net migration target with a system which is fit for purpose for universities and for business. And the flip side of being open to global talent is, of course, doing much more to upskill our own population. To really succeed, we need, of course, to do both. And to win globally, we need to seize the best opportunities wherever they may be. Yet even today, exactly 26 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, some still see the world as an either-or choice, between East or West, between emerging markets or established partners, between the continent or the Commonwealth. My question today is, why choose between one or the other when we can have it all? And Europe will be a big part of this. With the coming referendum, Britain faces an important decision about its future. One thing is for sure, the business view will be crucial. And over time, business leaders should let their employees, their communities, their customers, and their suppliers know what the result of a referendum means for their growth and their jobs and their prosperity. And whilst, of course, there is no uniform view on the subject, neither within the CBI nor among the wider business community, the majority of CBI members want to remain in a reformed EU, a position we set out clearly 2 years ago and have been absolutely consistent on over time, to remain in a reformed EU. The majority of our members think that, on balance, the advantages of EU membership outweigh the disadvantages. And when we see the reforms the Prime Minister achieves and expects to achieve over time, we will ask you again for your views. I have every confidence that he and his team will secure a deal that we can support. And as we move forward towards the referendum, the great British public deserves a debate based on sober analysis of the arguments, not heated attacks on those making them. Yet over the last week or so, we've seen a series of systematic and sustained attacks with one aim: undermining the credibility of the CBI to speak on behalf of you, our members. So let's look at some of those facts. Our critics are saying we're EU funded. Well, exactly 0.6% of our income does come from the European Commission, which chooses to use the quite brilliant and top quality economic analysis that is so widely valued in the UK and is so important in understanding the wider context of economic growth in Europe. Our critics say our 2013 survey doesn't represent the full spread of the business community. That's right, it was a member survey, although the respondents together employed 1.5 million people between them. Let me be very clear. As the CBI, we're proud to represent businesses of all sizes, from the 140 trade associations, made up mostly of smaller firms, to medium-sized businesses and most of the larger FTSE companies. We're proud to champion business from all sectors: brewers, engineers, creative industries, and indeed farmers. And we're proud to speak for businesses that together employ 7 million people, or about 1/3 of the UK private sector workforce. So while some think we should be quiet on this subject, I believe we have a legitimate right to speak out loud and clear on all of the issues that matter to our members in a language that people can understand, based on fact, based on rigorous analysis, based on jobs and about prosperity. So let's get back to the issues. Of course, we know Europe is far from perfect. New regulation should be a last resort and not a first response. And further integration in the Eurozone is not something that the UK wants to be part of. But equally, business does recognise that the EU brings many benefits. The EU single market gives British business access to more than 500 million customers, almost 8 times the number here in the UK. Completing the single market in sectors like service and digital could do so much for British growth and jobs. And on trade, Europe is our passport to a world of opportunity. Negotiating with the weight of 500 million citizens helps Britain be part of more deals. Canada and Australia have preferential trade access to 15 non-EU countries. Switzerland has preferential trade access to 38 non-EU countries, 36 of which were negotiated through EFTA. And yet, through EU trade deals, the EU has preferential access to more than 50 countries outside the EU. And as part of the EU, the UK can get a better deal too. For example, in the year that EU trade deal with South Korea, which includes services, UK exports to the country rose by more than a half, hitting the highest level ever at more than £6 billion. Next year, 5 years after the EU-South Korea deal entered into force, almost 99% of all tariffs will have been removed. Yet Australia will have had to wait almost 20 years after their deal entered into force to reach the same goal, almost 4 times as long as the EU. We cannot stop there, and at the CBI, we are out there leading the charge on ambitious but achievable reform, working with ministers, government, and our sister federations across the continent, pushing for a globe-trotting Europe which signs even more trade deals around the world. And like many of you in this room, I know that our business colleagues right across Europe share many of our concerns, many of our objectives, and have the same objectives that we do in terms of the need for reform and improvement. Today, EU membership covers over 60% of UK global trade. Not bad, but we can do better. Sealing the deal on all current negotiations would mean the EU and its trade deals could cover 88% of the UK's global trade, from Tampa in the west to Tokyo in the east. What a great opportunity for British business and British exports. Ladies and gentlemen, as business, I think we should feel really proud of what we have achieved. But we can't stop there. As the astronaut and businessman Jim Lovell once said, there are people who make things happen, there are people who watch things happen, and there are people who wonder what happened. I believe leadership is all about making things happen. And giving tomorrow's generation a better chance in life will mean making the right choices and taking the right action today. This means firms which improve communities and who rise to the challenges of developing tomorrow's skills. It means a government which invests in innovation and who take the brave decision to build that new runway. It means a country leading the charge for a better Europe today, tomorrow, and in the years to come. An island nation, but with a global ambition, ready to show the world that once and for all, that Britain does mean business. Thank you very much. And for your patience, we're now going to enjoy some lunch up there in the balcony. We will reconvene at 2 p.m. to enjoy the experience of Formula One.